Hey y'all, this is just a quick video to talk about going into the next 2 weeks where you're going to work on exam one. And first of all, just kind of an overview on grading. Yesterday afternoon I finished grading everything for chapter three. And this week I will start working on your chapter five work and getting you feedback and grades as soon as possible. And so now for the next 2 weeks, you're going to be working on exam one. And the first thing I wanted to mention is the other helpful stuff module. I've been mentioning this a lot. Some of you are getting better on the discussion questions. We had somebody get a 25 out of 25 for chapter 3, so that's quite impressive. But if you've been struggling, there are a couple of things. First of all, here are some suggestions for reading the chapters. It's actually a step-by-step guide that explains what you should do when you study the chapters. Here's a suggestion for what to do to prepare to take the quizzes. Here are explanations for how I want you to write the discussions and the exams, and how to reply to discussion posts. Also, there's an avoiding plagiarism set of videos that you should watch if you're not exactly sure how to do that. So in this module, I've basically broken down how I think you should approach doing all the work in the class. And if you haven't studied those, I suggest you take some time in the next week to do that. Okay, so let's take a look at the exam. And so exam one, part one is true, false, and multiple choice questions about chapters 1, 3, and 5. It's 50 points. You have 2 attempts, 35 minutes per attempt, and it keeps the highest score. So if you get a 40 the first time and a 42 the second time, you get a 42 for this grade. If you get a 48 the first time and a 38 the second time, it keeps the 38. So 25 questions, 35 minutes, worth 50 points. And as I said, this is over chapters 1. This is over chapters 1, 3, and 5. Okay, so now you might consider waiting to take exam 1, part 1, until you get feedback for your chapter 5 work. Just in case maybe there is a quiz question that you're going to challenge later in the week, or if you struggle with one of the theories or you have a question about the discussion. I'm going to be grading those this week, but it might take a while, so you might want to wait on this exam, or you might want to do your first attempt, see how you do, and if you struggle with chapter 5, maybe wait until next week when all your chapter 5 work is graded. There is a part 2, and this is over just chapters 3 and 5, and it involves answering essay questions. And again, make sure you follow the instructions for writing discussions and exams and some of the formatting guidelines here. Okay, so first you're going to answer questions about chapter 3, and you're answering them about the chapter 5 case study. So the first question everybody is going to answer. It's worth 20 points. Evaluate Lily's behavior after Mia was transferred to her business sector using Kelly's covariation model. So in this case, you're going to have to explain the covariation model and the different pieces of it and how it works, and then go ahead and apply it to Mia's response to Lily coming into her team. That one's worth 20 points. And then you're going to answer only one of the following 3 questions for 5 points. So you've got a question about behavioral versus cognitive uncertainty. You've got a question about using uncertainty reduction strategies, or you've got a question about cognitive dissonance theory. So depending on what theory you're most comfortable with, and your analysis of the case, you can pick any one of these three to answer for 5 points. I would say probably to answer the 20-point questions, you're going to write at least 1 page single spaced. Some people may stretch it out to 1.5 to 2. And to answer the 5-point questions, it's going to be a solid half of a page, probably single spaced in most cases. All right, so that's chapter 3. Answer the 20-point question and answer one of the other 3 questions. Then go down to chapter 5. It's the exact same thing. Everybody's going to answer this question. Explain the face needs of Pat and Julie. So you're going to have to define face, talk about what face needs are, and then look at both Julie and Pat and explain their face needs. And then you're going to select one of the following 3 questions and answer it for 5 points. The first one asks you to imagine that you're writing a second part of the case study where Julie confronts Pat about the end of the case study using some of the super strategies. And so I've listed the ones that I want you to write about. That's one option. Another option is to use social exchange theory to think about what would it mean if Julie was thinking about quitting. And then finally, you might use the dialectical perspective to explain Julie and Pat's relationship. Okay, so a couple other things. As I said, you might want to wait to do the Chapter 5 pieces of the exam until I've graded all your Chapter 5 work. I'm hoping to have that done by Wednesday, but it might be Friday or Saturday. But for sure, it'll be done by Sunday afternoon, which is why I give you 2 weeks for the exam. So work on the Chapter 3 parts this week. Prepare as much as you want to for the Chapter 5 parts. And then as you have questions, you can see there's a discussion specifically for Exam 1. You can ask questions or talk about things here. And that's about it. So I'm looking forward to reading your Chapter 5 work, and I'll be getting back to you with more feedback soon. Have a good week.